Good morning and welcome to the VSA Morning Miner. It's Monday, the 28th of February. I'm Ollie O'Donnell and I'm joined by Paul Rankin. Paul, how are you today?
I am well, thank you. How are you?
Yep, all good, thanks. Refreshed after a week off. So keen to get going. Right, well, I guess we better start with the impact on natural resources from the developments relating to Russia over the weekend. So obviously BP has moved to divest its position in Rosneft, and they have taken a $25 billion write down, which is a pretty sharp move, and generally Russian equities are getting hit pretty hard this morning. Polymetal, which has been a staple of probably most major gold funds, is off 39% this morning. Petropavlovsk, which is less of an institutional stock, is down 13%, but even safe haven companies, which, I mean, Polymetal is an extremely well-run company, and that is getting hit very hard today.
Yes, that's right. And what it comes down to is not only the objections to the in the politics to the military invasion of Ukraine. It comes down to institutional investors, if they have any kind of credibility as to saying that they believe in ESG criteria. Well, there is nothing in governance criteria which is defensible for institution to be holding Russian domiciled firms which are otherwise paying tax revenues to this initiative in Ukraine. So major institutions essentially are forced into a position of selling if they're going to maintain their ESG or their own ESG credentials, I think.
This fire sale doesn't necessarily mean that fund managers are going to have piles of cash to invest in the rest of the world in terms of gold or oil and gas, but it will narrow their universe, certainly. And let's look at one of the mid caps that's growing. Perseus Mining is now going to acquire Orca Gold. We've been watching that project grow, impressive project in Sudan over the last few years, haven't we, Paul?
Yes, that's right. Orca, with a major gold deposit discovery that's now in development at this stage in Sudan, which is roughly a 5 million ounce open pit or series of open pits there in Sudan, would be the largest mining operation in Sudan as well. Perseus Mining being a integrated West Africa gold producer that's been in acquisition mode for a couple of years now, and they are offering 0.56 Perseus shares for every Orca share, and that represents a premium of 63% on the last closing price. The directors, which control 37% of Orca shares, have all voted in favor of the deal, so they think it's pretty fair in that regard as well. So I suspect this deal will go through.
Okay. Base Resources interims, Paul. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, the key point there, pleasing for shareholders, is that it's record revenues for the first half of over US $104 million. And the fact that on the order side that they received higher prices on all of the products that they sell, with 12%, 43%, and 36% rises in rutile, ilmenite, and zircon realized prices, respectively. Also in the half, they did complete a new definitive feasibility study on the Toliara mineral sands project, which is essentially the anchor for the company's future, and that deposit is in Madagascar, but it is somewhat behind schedule as far as its permittings and consents is concerned. So there is some risk here behind Base Resources in that regard. But at this point in time, they are making good money on what they can produce.
Yeah, we've highlighted for a while now the positive backdrop for mineral sands prices, so that's been a key factor there. Anything else, Paul?
Yes, I wanted to mention that AIM quoted Castillo Copper has posted a maiden resource on their Big One copper discovery up there in Queensland. It's a 2 million ton resource statement to JORC standard at grading over 1%, and it is still open-ended in several directions, so the geologists are keen in order to get more drilling into this thing. But given its grade and because it's near surface, there will be a mine developed here at some point in time. I don't think there's any question of that. It's just a question of what the scale will be at this point.
Okay. First day of trading for near metals. Andrew and I mentioned that on the podcast the other week. So that's good to have another a proper battery company on the LSE. Paul, what are your thoughts on that company?
Yes, I think that's specifically in order to broaden institutional investors into the battery or integrated battery space, and to remember also that one of the primary portfolio assets of Neometals is it's a Scandinavian vanadium slags retreatment situation. So they at some point will want to raise the capex funding to put that into development. So a UK listing would certainly be helpful for that.
Great. Okay. Anything else?
Only to say that the first assay results are back from Panther Metals drilling on their cobalt nickel project called Coglia in West Australia, and they're actually pretty good at this stage. We've got intercepts over 10 meters in the first 5 holes, running between 1 and 3% nickel and about 1,500 ppm in cobalt. So this is definitely an enriched discovery of some kind. And Panther Metals has a 58-hole program initially planned here, and this is just the first 5 holes released. So be following this one closely.
Okay. Right, well, I think we've covered quite a lot there, so we'll call it a day for today and speak to you again tomorrow. Thanks, Paul.
See you then.